Welcome to the first edition of the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Conversation podcast, if you want to call it that. We're really excited to be here with the CEO of NexCare WellBridge Senior Living, Mr. Mike Perry, and also the VP of Clinical Services, Heather Perry. Got a lot to get into, and of course, we will cover a variety of topics, but the main focus is care. And we have Nurses Week coming up May 6th to May 12th. So we are going to dive into all of the stars that are performing and making sure they are taking great care of all the residents across the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Center. Well, Mike, obviously, it has been a trying year working in the this industry. Unfortunately, nursing homes, it's just been a very, very difficult year. But NexCare WellBridge Senior Living obviously prioritizes taking care of residents, taking care of your customers, and taking care of the extended family that is welcomed into, all the facilities, across the area. So I guess to start, as we focus here on delivering care and making sure, everyone is getting the proper care and being tended to, what has this past year been like? Because it feels like, it had to go from delivering 5-star care, over the last year to 10-star and going above and beyond and not really knowing what was going on a day-to-day basis. So I got to believe you're really thankful and grateful to all the workers that are across the network.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here today without our workers, without all of our caregivers, talent members. This past year has been remarkable. A year like no other. I've been doing this for 25 plus years and trying to describe what this past year has been for us in the post-acute care and in our company. The changes on an ongoing basis, regular basis, day by day, CDC guidance, MDHHS guidance, CMS, LARA, all the different regulatory agencies, staying on top of all those things. Great big shout out to all of our team members, all of our talent members, particularly our nurses. And I point them out, particularly now because of the upcoming Nurses Week. We're really working hard to honor them. We wouldn't be here where we are today without their hard work and dedication. We're not out of the woods yet. We do feel like we're getting there. More and more vaccines are being administered. Cases we're seeing start to come down. I know we've had a recent wave here in Michigan, but it's been a tough year. We would never have been able to get through this without our team.
For nurses specifically, and like you mentioned, Nurses Week coming up May 6th to May 12th. And of course, if you want to follow NexCare WellBridge Senior Living on all social media platforms, of course, you can do that. We'll be featuring several nurses over the next several weeks. But as Mike mentioned, and Heather, maybe you can allude to it a little bit more. As it pertains to nurses, it is not an easy job. It's not. I mean, I can speak to my grandfather a few years ago was, in a nursing home, and we're always asking questions, and we want to make sure, Grandpa's doing all right, and you want to feel comfortable being away from him, because he might not even know what's going on, and I think it's unbelievable the work that nurses do in these facilities specifically, and I got to believe that's a pride point for you as well.
Yeah, the last year has been so challenging. When a patient's admitted, the quarantine for the 14 days, no family members being able to visit, for the last year. The nurses get lots of phone calls. A lot of family members are, frustrated with the situation. And, a lot of that's shouldered on the actual nurses, which is really, tough for them because they're already struggling with the isolation and the changing guidelines and, just everything that they're dealing with emotionally, people being sicker. So it's been a really tough year for our nurses, and we really, have a huge shout out to them during Nurses Week, and we're excited to be able to help them deliver that.
It's almost like, especially over the last year, the nurses needed nurses.
Yes.
They needed somebody to, be able to talk to and maybe vent to a little bit, because in reality, they were just kind of on an island. They just got to do the job. And, the most important thing, again, is just taking care of the residents and making sure that they have everything that they need. But, were you guys almost part-time, psychiatrists, psychologists, trying to make sure everyone could maintain a positive attitude?
Yes, it was so difficult, as whenever everything first started last spring in 2020, we had, the rest of the industry were able to stay at home. It was shut down. And, the licensed nurses were, you were encouraging them to still come in, even though they didn't, know what COVID was or what PPE restrictions it was. And, they're truly heroes. They stepped up, they came in, they fought it out when everyone else, failed.
Yeah.
They couldn't.
It's amazing.
And, their residents needed them. One of the things you touched on is the nurses who have extensive training all of a sudden became communication specialists. Families are calling, knocking on the windows, wanting information, and they had to provide it. And amongst doing many, many, many other things, and we were committed to keeping our families notified of the care of their loved ones. It's amazing what they were able to do and continue to do, frankly.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, and this isn't even just for the nurses and dealing with nursing homes and long and short term facilities that you guys obviously are a huge part of, but healthcare workers across the board. A lot of people just said, well, it's your job. You need to do it, and that's just the way that it is. You signed up, to help people out, and in reality, to a certain degree, you understand that. But on the other end of it, you don't go into a hospital, you don't go into a nursing home with your life potentially on the line. You could potentially get sick. You could be in trouble. You're only focused on taking care of the person who's already in, maybe a dire situation. So that just adds another element of appreciation and just that unfortunate instance where something could have happened to them, but they just said, we got to take care of things, which is incredible.
It really is. It was a scenario that we've never been a part of. Having them go in when they were needed, when they were called, it was amazing. And they stepped up. And again, we want to honor them. We always do, all of our team members, but particularly our nurses this coming Nurses Week. Honor them for all that they did and sacrificed. Like Heather said, a lot of industries stay home, work from home.
And still are.
And
a year later.
Frankly, still are. And who knows when people are going to return back to normal. And then on top of it, having to deal with that as well as school shutdowns, dealing with their kids. You mentioned the help that we offered, and we did expand our HelpNet program during this time. So if our staff, our nurses, or anybody on our team, needed some extra help, needed somebody to talk to, we offered that service. Certainly, we were always available. Took many calls. I know Heather, who's our chief nurse in our company, on the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answering questions as it relates to the pandemic and CDC guidance and all of that, but also, trying to be a comfort to our nurses for their own questions, and what the impact could be for them, as you mentioned.
I want to shift to just the culture, that you guys have kind of cultivated here, but real quick, to that point, the nurses essentially became family members for the residents, and if they can't have family in, they can't have friends in, you're not allowed to come into the facility, whatever it may be, you're sitting bedside holding the hand of someone that obviously you formed a relationship with, because if you're a nurse, you're just going to, it's just a habit. You're obviously going to end up caring about that individual, but it takes on, I think, a different tenor too, when they don't have the luxury of every day or every other day being able to see the people that love them and the people that they love. So just, again, another level of these nurses just being total heroes this past year, because I couldn't even imagine. I mentioned my grandfather a couple of years ago was in a nursing home. If we didn't have access, I feel like my mom would have tried to burn the place down, to try and get in there. You know what I mean? So that would have been incredibly difficult. I can't imagine how that was for families, but that's just amazing for the nurses to step up and be right there bedside.
Yeah, that's a component that we talked to our staff about over this past year is, we're now what they have. We're their family. I mean, we've always were their family, But now we are the family. We are really the only ones they have contact with outside of window visits for a period of time. Now things are starting to ease up, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But think about going a year and not being able to see your wife, your grandmother, your mother, your father. It's a remarkable thing to think about, what they went through. Families, residents, and then our staff providing nursing care, expert nursing care, communication specialists with the outside world, the direct family member of the residents. I mean, the things that got layered on top of their work, it just could go on, and it's just, I'm honored to have been able to work with such a tremendous group of people, clinicians, over this time frame. Without what they did and jumping in, we would have never made it through.
I mentioned culture just a second ago, and I gotta believe that establishing, the tenor and the message and everything you want to accomplish, in these facilities and with the nurses specifically, I feel like that had to have helped, preparing for, not that you can prepare, but preparing for a situation like this. Because if you didn't have the culture in place, you didn't have the right nurses, you didn't have people that cared and would go above and beyond, you might not have had, a great team and as successful a year of taking care of everyone as you have. What is the message when you bring in a new nurse? What is the slogan, almost, if you will, about, the level to which you're going to go for proper care? Because it had to be, again, somewhere established in all of these nurses to be able to just perform like rock stars like they did when it all happened.
Well, we've got a very specific selection process where we, go bring people in through interviewing and hiring and onboarding. We talk about the 4 pillars of our culture, our EPIC philosophy, which is, we endeavor to provide excellent care, excellence in everything we do. It's not perfection. Being excellent at what you do involves, owning up to making mistakes and fixing them. We look for passionate people. The P in EPIC is our passion philosophy. And part of passion is compassion. And we're looking for compassionate people. And generally speaking, and nurses are. That's one of the reasons I think they're drawn to that calling in life, that profession. We're looking for innovative people. The I in EPIC is our innovation. How do we bring in technologies and equipment and such to help us do a better job? But more importantly, to answer your question, is the C, and that's care. And care, and you mentioned it earlier, care is what we provide. It's what we do. But one of the things we talk about in care is we want to make sure that our nurses and all of our team members care about themselves. And how do we help them care? Because if they take care of themselves and we help them take care of themselves, then they're going to provide the best care possible. And that's always been our culture since we started the company. And I think leading into this last year, that definitely positioned us well to help us make it through. And we had to really kick in the EPIC on steroids, so to speak, to help people, listen, we're a team. We always consider our all of our talent family. It's something that started in the beginning when we were a small company, and now we're a pretty large company and with 26 locations here in Michigan. But we never want to lose sight of that family culture as part of what we do. And if people need something, they can call. And I think that helped. I really do. Going into it.
Yeah, Heather, obviously you work very closely with a lot of the nurses across all of these locations. So I guess for you specifically, how close-knit was it for you? I mean, your phone had to be, I'm assuming, ringing off the hook this past year, trying to help people, trying to make sure, residents are okay, trying to make sure families are understanding and, aren't going to, be upset with the nurses too much about, some of the guidelines and things going on. So for you specifically, I mean, I can tell the way you talk, it's obviously very personal, but, even more so this past year, just how much the nurses had to go through and how much they kind of probably had to lean on you a little bit.
Yeah, so just staying in contact with them. We started a Tuesday, Thursday call with our nurse consultants, and then the nurse consultants would communicate to the facilities, to all 26 locations, and then most of the buildings, all the directors, and they have my cell phone number and text messages, and just reassuring about the ever-changing guidelines. And Mike talked about innovation, and the nurses had to be so creative and innovative all the time as the regulations changed, and being able to diversify and change in a moment what you were doing an hour ago into what you're doing the next hour was totally different, because we would have new guidance from MDHSS or CDC. It was just truly, they were heroes and really adapted to any change that was brought to them.
And I can jump in, and Heather is modest. There was a number of times where she would be 7 o'clock at night, jumping in uniform, driving to a facility, jumping into COVID units, taking care of people, and then coming home and heading to the next one, or going to another facility and helping them set up a COVID unit. Because this is not something people did.
Never done.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
for this.
yeah, and just jumping right in. I remember early on a Sunday, early Sunday morning, we jumped in the car, we ran to our Clarkston facility. Just doing what we got to do, and being available to answer questions, 24/7, guidance,
reassurance.
Reassurance, right? That's a good, I think, a good word to use. That as best we can with the information we have, it's going to be okay, and we're going to get through this. Let's work together to make this happen.
Well, if you both had to, kind of individually say why a nurse, why a healthcare worker, should join the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living team, what would be, I guess, that message to people who are going to be getting out of school, who are going to be looking for positions potentially like this, to deliver, that care, I guess, that you guys obviously want to deliver across the board. What would you say to somebody who's wanting to potentially do something like this? Why NexCare?
I would, I'd encourage them to research culture. I think we have the culture they would want to join. We're committed to all of our talent members, and we want them to be successful, and we have, I think, some extensive training programs. I think we have a lot to offer. We have your back. We want to work with everybody, and I think it really comes back to culture. I think we have competitive, wages and benefits and all that stuff that people are looking for, but it's those other things that I think we bring to the table, and in some cases we have brand new state-of-the-art facilities, which is nice, but even some of our older facilities, we just got a good base of leadership and a commitment to quality.
Yeah, I would say that we care, for a new grad or someone that's just wanting to join the workforce, that we have opportunities for promotion, for people who work hard. And, we've seen a lot of people who've grown with us over the years, which is great. But we care, and, we try so hard to make people successful.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything else you would like to add just with Nurses Week? Again, May 6th to May 12th, we'll be showcasing a ton of it, on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages. But anything else you'd like to add, just if you had a message to the nurses on your team, as Nurses Week is here?
I would just say Happy Nurses Week, and we're super proud of everybody who works with us and who has completed this journey of the pandemic, and you're everyday heroes, and you're heroes to us.
Yeah, I echo that. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts on behalf of myself, our ownership group. We thank you for everything you've done. We love you, you know that. We're here for you, and we appreciate all you do.
Well, and of course, we're all hoping for a much better year this year. We appreciate Mike and Heather, of course, sitting down with us and having a conversation as we approach Nurses Week, May 6th to 12th. Of course, we want to thank all of the healthcare workers out there. It's been an incredible year, and so this is just a small thank you for all of the work that you have done. And again, we will be showcasing several of our nurses in all the facilities on the social media channels, NexCare WellBridge Senior Living. That's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course Twitter as well. And if you want to find out more information, you can just simply go to nexcarehealth.com. We'll be doing this a lot more moving forward, so we appreciate you sitting down with us here on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Conversation.